So, if you've been following me, that's probably hard to do, considering probably everyone only knows me from one small area of the internet. And if you actually want to follow me, probably be like these people have been following me for thousands of miles. Um, they probably know the best, but everyone else probably has a hard time gathering everything together. But if you heard things here and there, and I've obviously had to tone back on that, especially now that I'm on my own and I realize like there's more people following me for 3,000 miles than I've ever had friends in my life. Maybe. I think. I mean, they look like different people. They could be the same people, different, shifting to different forms, for all I know. Yeah. And for all I think, that's quite possible at this point. Um, But this is actually about this. If you can extract that information, at this point, it's all about parables and extracting information because you can't say anything. I even toned myself back. I didn't get banned for like a year from Facebook. It was like 9 years. I was on like a 9 year ban or something from Facebook. And so I was like, oh, yeah, well, like they would drop the hint. Well, look what you're saying. Look what you're doing. Like, obviously, you're going to get banned. And it's like, I was just pushing the envelope, but fuck it. So I decided to tone it back, and then I didn't tone it back. I completely shut up, and I went with the line. I went back to the line. Who we're supposed to hate, who we're allowed to hate, and who's the new hated group. And so then after, like, but I was still kind of hiding it. I was just using that group's name because we're allowed to hate that group, and until Trump got into office, and then I started getting banned sometimes for hating that group too. Um, like the cancel culture kind of went both ways between the black and the white, obviously, because there's no other discussion. There's no gray in between that discussion, and so I was like thinking, we got Epstein and Einstein controlling the world, and Carl Sagan, Zuckerberg, and so I just assumed like, hey, that must be that group of people, right? And because look, it looks like it is that group of people, but no, it's just their leaders. It's just their leaders. I keep being reminded, like, people will appear out of nowhere in this world and they'll talk to me and they'll come up to me and they'll remind me, well, it's not all of them, it's just their leaders. And I'm like, okay, well, thanks for appearing out of nowhere and coming in my life and having this conversation like you know me and like you know who I am somehow and what I do. And also, like, sometimes I'm like, hey, thanks for coming into my life looking like the people I already know and I've already met before, because that's weird. Like, I'm 3,000 miles away from where I came from, and there's billions, trillions almost of people on this planet, and I could feel alone out here if I didn't know anyone. So it's cool how that can happen, and they'll come in my life and they'll remind me, like, hey, you mean the Pharisees and the Sadducees? And I'm like, oh yeah, I do keep forgetting that. It's just the leaders, right? Like Jesus said, it's just the leaders. Um, and so that, like, that clears things up for me quite a bit when people can come into my life and remind me of that. Um, Oddly, some of the very few conversations I ever have, because I don't really speak much, and so that doesn't spark conversation with people. Um, So, thanks for coming to my life and sparking enough conversation so you can remind me of that. And I guess thanks for, whatever's going on in this world, that every time I ask to see someone I know, that person comes back in my life in a different form. Still trying to figure out how that works. Maybe someone else can explain to me how that works. How when I ask to see my brother, I get shown newspapers articles of the first person I've ever seen who's looked like my brother, and who just happens to work in the high levels of the, was it the high levels of the government? I think so, yeah. Yeah, it was like Department of Justice. That was interesting. But that was like the 40th person I've seen this last year who look like someone I know. And when I interact with people who look like someone I've seen or viewed before, watched before, they often they have like same qualities, same voice patterns, same looks to them. Hold themselves in the same way. Very very weird how that can happen. Um, yeah, but I guess thanks for that, right? I asked to see my brother again because I probably will never see anyone I used to know again. Not that I really want to, but I wanted to see my brother. I wanted to see my dad, and I thought it'd be cool to see my brother again too, and a couple of my old friends, couple like to the people who never fucked me over. Um, well, it feels like most people fuck me over when I decided to start studying what the world is. All of a sudden, people got really weird about that. Like they're all hiding some big secret. And people got vicious over that. Like real vicious. Predatory like. So like those people no longer hold the title of like friend or family, and well, since it included so many people, pretty much everyone I didn't still talk to got put on the axe list. I mean, they brought the axe in and they lay their head down and they say, "Hey, you need to put me on this list." So it's not like I really was like, "Hey, you guys are going to go on the axe list." They were pretty much like, "Yeah, you're ignoring the fact that I'm supposed to be on this list now. Let me fucking bring you the axe and explain it to you." But I guess that's cool, in a way, because in a whole nother way, that just destroys my head even more to see that this stuff happen in this world. And it's like, oh, so now we're playing a whole new game. We're playing on a whole nother level in this world, right? Where I once thought I knew what was going on, and now all of a sudden people are like, hey, no, we're all working together actually, and hey, like there's a lot of stuff going on here you don't understand, because we've all been lying. Is that the correct word? There's a nicer word for lying. Or they've been telling tall tales. You gotta use this psychology, Jedi psychology. You gotta use that on people. You've been fibbing. You're like, oh yeah, well, I'm sorry. Hopefully you can forgive me. And say, you've been fibbing about all those people you've been murdering. Oh yes, I was fibbing. Please forgive me. Like, you are forgiven. That is of course, you know, just like a follow up joke. You are forgiven. It's just like a follow up joke. Forgotten is an easy thing to do. Till I see this stuff pop up again. Thankfully, I haven't seen too many of the things pop up that are an issue. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know I've been wrong, And it's just a couple leaders on this planet who are evil. And there's nothing else going on this planet. There's just like 5 wild, crazy guys who are just, Soros and Epstein and Carl Sagan, Einstein, and what's another good name? No one knows Adelson, so no one knows Heinz Saban, so I can't use his name. Oh, Rothschild, that's right. You get too deep in this stuff, and you forget the stuff you learned 10 million names ago. But that's important. Just it's the Rothschild. There's these people. They live like underground somewhere, and they've been controlling the world for thousands of years. So there's like this one little family. It's interesting because one of the people who came into my life to talk to me looked like Lord Rothschild, and which looked like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, right? Which oddly, that person was with the person who looked like my dad and my grandpa. Which oddly, that group of people brought up my dad, and I wasn't talking about them, and they were like, yeah, didn't your dad work for those people? Like, we were talking about politics and stuff. Just magically, me and the Rothschild look alike, and the father and the grandpa look alike. And so one of the third persons there, who I haven't quite placed what he looked like yet, or no, is that the Rothschild, the guy who looks Rothschild? I think that's the guy who looks Rothschild. Anyways, one of the 3 people there in the jacuzzi said, didn't your father used to work for these people? And like, I started letting stuff slide because I've just seen so much stuff. It's like who even cares anymore? And like, I spent all 2020 asking a bunch of questions of a bunch of people, and I spent like 2010 to 2020 interrogating, investigating, studying, analyzing, recording, and documenting every human interaction I had, mainly for my safety. It felt like there was maybe an assassin sent into my life. People hanging out with Donald Trump before Trump even announced he was running for president. That just sounded weird to me because I was like, why are rich white people trying to hang out with me? And that was before I did my video on who Trump really is. So, rich white people, right? Kind of at that point I could assume. And by that time I could have already assumed, Trump's probably Rothschild blood linked, but, you know, it was a very interesting conversation how I'm sitting there speaking with someone who looks like Lord Rothschild, my father, who I'd asked to see again because I'll never see him alive again. And they just happened to. And it's odd. The dude who looked like my father looked like that one dude from that show with the meatball and the milkshake and the fries, the talking things. What was his name? The guy who said, none of this matters. Like the Italian guy, the hairy chest. He looked like a fat version of my father and grandpa. Which I guess I would look like if I didn't have hair. I'm just small and shit. I kind of look like, without hair, I kind of look like some old rulers of Egypt. And very odd how that happens, too. But yeah, that was odd. Very odd things. I titled the video one thing, but is that what the video is really about? It was, I shut my cameras down the past few months. People started noticing I had cameras on. All of a sudden. How did people all of a sudden start noticing? It took like years of me like laughing at people like, you dumbass, no, what you just said contradicts what you said like 5 minutes ago, yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. And you'd be like, no, no, and try to continue to mislead me. And I'd be like, I mean, do you want to review the video? And they'd be like, oh, no, yeah, let's review it. And it's like, dude, I don't got time to waste on your bullshit. Like, I'm not gonna sit down and watch a video with you. Like, you're trying to take my time already. You're trying, like, I'm out here trying to save the world, trying to do something with my life, trying to train, trying to become strong and smart, and trying to save the world. And was and you want to review videos of you lying to prove to yourself that you're a liar. I mean, what type of ignorant shit is that? Fucking, no, no. These were just people who wanted to spend time with me, and I didn't want. So I didn't allow them to review the evidence. I've got so many videos. It will take a team of 100 people, 100 years to review everything I've written and recorded. And it'd be interesting enough probably to do it all, too. But besides the point. Got a lot of things going on. And you know what, after 2020, I just kind of realized, I just kind of think everyone else knows everything I've got going on, so I don't feel I need to explain why I might be having a fucking bad day, a bad year, a bad life. And, with the things I seen in 2020, I was like, once I uprooted and took off, I, I'm like wondering how like anyone doesn't know. Like, there are people out here who act like they know like stuff I did as a child. And then there's a bunch of people who act like they don't remember what I did as a child, and they only remember like the last 5, 10 years. It's like, you don't even know me. How do you know anything about me? How do you know? How do you know what I did 5 years ago if you don't know what I did 20 years ago? If you don't know what I did 30 years ago? And I mean, in all honesty, that gives me sort of hope that maybe I am like something else here on this planet. And maybe everyone else does lack complete knowledge, which is definitely a saving thing for me, because then that would mean there's people out there who are far more advanced at fighting, and this is just useless for me to train all the time. Very weird stuff, though. Yeah, I've just kind of given up on life. I mean, I never participated, but I was kind of tricked into 10 years ago. There's these evil Rothschild, these invisible people no one knows, no one's ever seen, no one can give an address to. There's a holiday for them in Israel. That's about the most proof that they exist. But those are the evil people of the world, right? There's like 5 evil people, and they unleash coronavirus on the world, and then they shut all the societies down, and oh, wow, this is boring. I'm talking, I'm not sure. I mean, I wonder sometimes like who I'm even talking to. Like, am I talking to a group of people who all know? Like, who are these people who can magically know 5 years ago, 10, 20, 30 years ago? And I was like, dude, you don't know me. Like, as far as I know, I'm not on TV. We don't watch the same TV channels, if that's the case. I mean, I don't watch TV anymore, But if you knew me what happened in my life when I was like 8, yeah, I watched TV a little bit when I was 8, right? Maybe I didn't watch the right channel. Maybe it was on like the pay-per-view porno channels or something. My life was. But yeah, very. I mean, dude, the other video, 2 videos ago, I made about the world being bullshit. And there's no way this is billions of years old. There's no way. I mean, there's arguments both ways that there's no way they could have been built in billions of years, and there's no way it was built. It took that long to build it. I argue there's no way this could have been built in a few thousand years, and there's no way this is billions of years old. There would be a time frame somewhere in there. Yeah. But when I made that video, some really, really, really crazy shit happened. I went back to my vehicle and I went to sleep because it was like I first woke up at like 11 p.m. and I think I made that video around like 2 or 3. And I just want to like sleep the rest of my life off. So I went back to sleep. I'm trying to just stay loaded up on sleeping pills and shit so I can just keep sleeping. And, yeah, some really weird, yeah, I don't really want to talk about it. I mean, do I even have to explain to anyone? It makes me feel like an idiot if I'm explaining stuff to people who have been watching me my whole life. I'm just wasting time talking. Now I'm like a circus monkey. I'm not only dancing, I've been dancing my whole life, and now I'm singing. I'm the singing and the dancing circus monkey. I'm new and improved circus monkey and shit. That's what it makes me feel like when I talk after dealing with all this. And I could say I hope I'm wrong, but I don't believe in hope. I don't believe in bullshit. I believe in what I see and not really even that anymore. So, yeah, this video obviously was, the title. I can't say too much because I'm probably, who knows, breaking some sort of hate speech in this video or uh, intolerance rules. Like anti-Rothschild now. Apparently, many people think that means I'm anti-Semitic. And like I told you, these people come into my life and they remind me, hey, like it's not all, don't be anti-Semitic. It's just like 5 of the Jewish leaders who are going crazy on the world. And I'm like, oh yeah, thanks for coming to remind me of this. Like, at least someone can talk about the topic with me, right? Because no one else understands any of it. So thanks for coming into my life to remind me that I shouldn't be anti-Semitic, and I should just say it's the Jewish leaders, the Rothschilds and Epstein. Um, they are great magicians. We don't even see the Rothschild because their power of invisibility spells are so great. I don't even know if I'm being sarcastic right here, to be honest. Um, their power to shape forms and shift to different forms, so great. awesome. Um, I mean, not awesome, right? What they're doing is supposedly not awesome. I don't know. After seeing the whole world and thinking the whole world's in on it, um, it does sound like the Rothschild and Bill Gates are awesome people and shit, and Mark Zuckerberg and shit are awesome people. I mean, who am I to pass judgment, right? Why have they done this so much worse than what someone else has done? Rude awakening. Rude awakening when you end up learning that everyone else in the world's on a comparable level to these Rothschild people. Maybe at the very least, maybe on a high level, it's because they're all the same beings, just in different flesh, just in different visions of flesh. I was using the term flesh suit for a while, beings in flesh suits, as a replacement for the word human. And like I realize, like, I can't prove that there's an actual flesh suit in front of me. It could just be a entire vision. It could just be a pixel, a hologram. It doesn't have to be something inside a flesh suit. It, it could be hit detection, collision detection makes me think something's there when I move towards it and touch it. Oh, all this shape shifting shit's got me feeling weird though. It's like, who have I been having sex with my whole life? And if everyone else is something else, and I'm actually over that thought. That thought crushed 2020 for me. But I don't know. These days, I think, you know, I really don't want to do anything. I don't want to. I never did. Never wanted to participate. It's always been bullshit. I've been smart enough to see that from the start, no matter how many lies I was told by everyone around me. But unfortunately, like, I'm still training and stuff for like my own safety, because I don't want these beings in flesh suits who appear as flesh suits. I don't want them like being able to get the best of me while I'm still forced to be here. So like, I don't even like going to the gym at this point anymore. It's just like, it's like work. It's like a chore to make sure that I don't end up in a situation where I can be overpowered by people without taking a few of them out first. That's actually